Hey everyone, my name is Zach. I'm a 23-year-old competitive boulderer from Canada, currently living in Montreal. Welcome back to the COMPCLIMB training series, where I record most of my training, provide in-depth analysis of every session, and just chat about climbing with an emphasis on competition. So, some fun stuff in today's episode. For one, I will point out the big elephant in the room. We are actually in London right now, at least during this episode, and that was not on our initial plan, or at least the plan that I was had sort of publicized. We had a pretty good feeling that we were going to be making a little bit of a detour from Germany. We weren't exactly sure where it was going to be though. Originally it was going to be France, but it turns out we ended up going to the UK. And first we'll jump into the session and lay the land a bit, and then I'll talk about why we're actually in the UK a little bit later. But yeah, so first, I guess I'll just mention where we're climbing right now. We're climbing at a gym called Parthian Climbing in London, and yeah, we had a few sessions in London, and I was trying to go to as many gyms as possible. But before we keep looking at this session here, I should mention that I guess the last episode that came out was where we were climbing at Boulder House in Germany, and we actually had a few more sessions in Germany. In this episode, we're having quite the fast forward actually, probably by about a week, maybe even a little bit more than a week. But we had a few more sessions in Germany, but it was actually getting to the point where it was quite exhausting to travel around, not only from city to city, but from gym to gym without a car. It was very time consuming in the day, and Maddie and I had some other stuff that we were working on that it got to the point where I actually just skipped a couple days of filming in Germany for the COMPCLIMB. I had a training day at Boulder, which I didn't end up filming. And yeah, just a couple days missed training in Germany, and then we headed out to London. And even this session here is skipping a couple days of climbing that we actually did in London. So we had some special projects that we were doing in the days leading up to this session now. And then I also went and had just a normal session of training at a gym called Yonder, which I think is a pretty well-known gym in London. I myself had already heard of it as well. But long story short, Yonder was super packed. I went on a Sunday, and so I was planning to get some COMPCLIMB video from there, but it didn't make it into, it was just unfilmable on that day, honestly. It was so busy, but that gym was really cool. So anyway, that's all that has happened leading up into the point of now, which is this session that we're having here. We're gonna have one more session after this, and then it's comp day. So this is the second last session going into the World Cup. And so the excitement and the pressure is building. And then I guess you've probably noticed by now, it looks like we're climbing on some competition boulders. So yeah, this gym is called Parthian, and I guess they had a local competition recently, and they had some boulders up from the finals round, which were cool to practice on. This one is an example of some of the boulders that got a little bit crazy. Of course, I normally don't climb on boulders like this, but I actually thought that the ending of this boulder looked quite nice, and so I said, okay, you know what? Let me put a couple tries on this thing, see if the boxing bag is just too ridiculous, and if it just felt too weird, I would stop trying it. But it's actually kind of interesting climbing on this boxing bag, especially transitioning up to this next hold, the zone with the yellow tape. It was a very bizarre sensation to transition from a moving object onto the wall again, because you can't really stabilize with the boxing bag once you're grabbing that undercline crimp. But you know what? Even though it was kind of like a wacky challenge, it was sort of there's always a little bit of value in trying really bizarre things where it is climbing at the end of the day. It really can make you think about movements in a new way. And so I think there was actually value in me trying this boxing bag boulder. And the ending was indeed quite good and strenuous. But yeah, we're getting on some fun comp boulders here. And yeah, like I was saying, this is the second last session before the World Cup. And since we've been skipping out on a few sessions in the past week and a half, what I mean is skipping out on them making it into the videos, I actually haven't been able to check in with like where my headspace is at, unfortunately, just because we haven't been doing as many videos. But one thing that's been pretty prevalent is that exactly what I expected to happen is really happening. And I've been getting harder and harder on myself as the World Cup approaches. And I'm really nitpicking my shape. If I can't do a move on a boulder, it's making me feel really bad because I'm saying to myself, like, man, this feels like this could just be in the World Cup and I'm not doing it. So it's not feeling like a recipe for success. And I was sort of talking about this when I got my World Cup invitation, that I knew that this was going to be a theme with the training going forward. But the point is that it's getting actually bad as we're leading into the World Cup. It's really not a good feeling, and I'm trying to control my headspace, but this is kind of just what naturally happens to you. Like, especially when you're trying to compete at a level that just feels like I feel like I have to be perfect, like climb at my absolute perfect best in order to show some sort of performance that I would feel decent about. And it's just been really stressful. It's hard to try and feel physically 1000%, especially while you're on the road traveling. And so, yeah, I've just been battling this, but I have had experience with this feeling in the past, and I know that while it's there, I had a good analogy from one of the Team Canada coaches from recent years who said that similar to your heart's job, which is to just pump blood, your mind's job is to sort of just pump thoughts, and it's actually just up to us to make whatever we want of the thoughts that our brain pumps. And in the end, we can let those thoughts affect our emotions or choose to not let them affect our emotions that much. And so basically what this means is that I can't really control what thoughts sort of pop into my head. So the feeling of insecurity and not feeling good enough, I can't really stop my mind from thinking that. But what I can control is how I let it affect me emotionally, and just not let those thoughts make me feel scared. And I think that is what I've been getting better at, and something that is quite different from previous years of trying to go and compete on the World Cups. So I'm not necessarily feeling scared going into this World Cup, but I'm definitely feeling a little bit insecure, just because I've been falling on boulders that I feel like I should be doing, these sort of things, especially in the sessions that didn't make it into the videos. But anyway, it's still definitely good form, better than I have felt going into previous World Cups, so that's good. And let's talk about this boulder too. This, I guess, was probably one of the qualifying boulders from the local competition that they had at this gym. And this one was a little bit crazy. I'm about to jump into a finger lock. So there are a couple jibs in here that are pressed right up against the other red holds, so you can't really grab them. As you can see, I'm just locking my fingers like around the hold. I've never done this sort of move before, and I was just being extra careful as I was trying it. I had to really sort of unlatch my finger out of that as I was falling. But yeah, I didn't try that one again for fear of losing my fingers. And then yeah, we're gonna hop back on this boulder, which I wasn't talking about. I was talking about something else, of course, as we were watching me fall on this one. And this last move is a good example of the bit of insecurity I've been feeling. Like this last move, I did not feel like I could do whatsoever. I did not feel close to this move. And actually this last move will feature today's tip of the day as well at the end of the episode, so stick around. But yeah, I like, you know, especially around here, I feel like the setters are quite smart. And so knowing that this was a boulder that was set for competition, it was likely not a theory set. It's very uncommon that setters set theory boulders for a finals round. So that last move is absolutely possible. That is like what my perception of that move was while I was trying it. And so I'm thinking to myself, like, man, why can't I just not do this move? It clearly goes. It is an actual competition boulder. And I can tell that this is a move that someone performing decently on the World Cup should be able to do. And I tried it a bunch and I just could not do it. And so that was like an example of these moves that I've been running into recently that have been messing with my head. But yeah, like while I was just talking about this idea, it's making me insecure, but I'm not letting it make me scared, because at the end of the day, all I have to do right now in this position is to just do my best on comp day. There's nothing else left to be trained. I've done all the training. I'm as physically strong as I can be. So I just have to do my best, and that's all you can really ever ask of yourself. So that's where I'm at going into the World Cup, which is actually tomorrow at the time I'm recording this. Okay, and also let's now talk about why Maddie and I are in London. So you're about to see a very special guest pop up on the screen to give an exceptional brushing job to this boulder. So if for anyone who consumes climbing content on YouTube, this face should be quite familiar. And this is Hannah Morris. So yeah, the long story short is Hannah reached out to Maddie and I and asked if we wanted to do a collaboration with her. And we were trying to like nail down a location, and then we weren't exactly sure where we were going to go or when it was going to happen, which is why I've been keeping it on the down low until now. But yeah, it worked out nicely. Of course, we were already in Europe, and so we just had to make a little trip over from Germany to London. And we've also always wanted to visit London, so it was extra awesome. And we did some cool collaborations with Hannah. And yeah, we met Hannah and Nathan, and they are awesome people. And Hannah was just hanging out at the gym right now, waiting for Nathan to finish a meeting or something. And so she was just hanging out with me and decided to give this boulder a brush. And as soon as she brushed it, I sent it. So clearly that was the key to sending that pretty tricky yellow boulder. So thanks to Hannah for the awesome brushing job. And also reaching out to Maddie and I to do our first big collaboration. It was a really, really awesome experience, and you'll have to definitely stay tuned for, so we did a few videos actually. We'll do one on our channel and then a couple on hers. So definitely go subscribe to her if you're not already. And so yeah, that's sort of what I mean with the extra busy last couple weeks and not having as much time to film the regular COMPCLIMB. We were doing some collaborations, going from country to country, and also not having a car made all of the travel extra tedious. But anyway, it's been an action-packed couple weeks, and we're only halfway through this mega month-long trip. So there's more fun stuff to come. And speaking of fun stuff, we are at a different gym now, and this is the next day of training. In that first day, we just had one session that was only an hour long, and that's because we are really trying to taper for the World Cup and keep the volume low. So we didn't even do 2 sessions yesterday. It was just a simple 1 hour, 1 session. Make sure I'm feeling nice and fresh going into the weekend. And so we are here, which is going to be the last day of training. Same idea, 1 session, 1 hour. And this should keep me feeling nice and fresh and not destroying myself before the big competition. And so we are at a gym called Hang, which I hadn't actually heard of, but I am of course familiar with the owners of these gyms, of this gym. So Hang is a cool gym in London that is owned by, I don't know, like if all of them are owners, but the Bouldering Bobats, which are some of the OG climbing YouTube content creators, and they opened a gym. I'm not sure exactly how long ago, but I was asking for recommendations on social media for some gyms in London to check out, and Hang was probably the most recommended gym. So even though it was, today is actually the day that we were traveling to Prague, I had to go make the trip all the way out to Hang in the morning before we flew to Prague to check out this gym, because I heard a lot of good stuff about it, and it did not disappoint. It was a really fun gym, a fun vibe. The setting was really, really good. And yeah, it was actually probably the most similar style gym to the Montreal gyms that we have back home. The setting style was quite similar. They used a lot of bigger holds. And in some of the other gyms in the UK, Maddie and I were noticing a lot of small holds, lots of grip strength required. But here at Hang, it felt like a little bit more similar to Montreal, which was cool. I'd say Hang was probably my favorite of the 4 gyms I visited while we were here in London, which were Substation, which I guess is in Brixton. And then we also went to Yonder. We went to Parthian, which was in the first half of this episode. And then here we are at Hang. And yeah, this one was definitely my favorite. It was a lot of fun. And speaking of favorites, this boulder that I'm about to try was probably my favorite from the session here at Hang. This one was super fun. And it turned out that Hang was also like a nice, good gym for a bit of a confidence boost as well, right before the World Cup. I knew that no matter what the difficulty of the boulders up at Hang were, I was gonna try and go for a confidence boosting session. I find that's sort of the most important thing as you're going into an event, is to really cater to the emotional side of us just being human beings, and really needing to boost that confidence, because it is just a super, super important part of the mental game going into a super competitive event. So yeah, even if you have to kind of try and trick yourself or play games with yourself, you need to make sure you're feeling confident going into an event, because if you think you're going to perform not so well, that's usually how it will go. And we've all heard this idea before. So I knew that I was going to not try the most difficult boulders up in the gym if they looked super hard, because the idea was that I really wanted to get some sends in, just feel confident and good. And that's like the last note that I want to be leaving with myself going into the World Cup. And yeah, what I mean by Hang turning out to be sort of the perfect gym for this session was the boulders were just the perfect difficulty level for this. Like even the hardest couple boulders up in the gym weren't projects, which was good. I was able to do them in a couple tries. So even though I'm very conscious of the fact that these were the softer than boulders I've been trying in previous days, even still, like having actually gone and sent them all is just giving me that bit of confidence boost that I needed, which is funny. Like this is just kind of an example of playing games with yourself. The game is that I know these boulders are softer than the ones I was trying before in the gyms where I wasn't sending everything. But at the same time, you know, it still does the trick and gives me the confidence boost that I need as the last note going into the World Cup, which is good. So I'm glad that I ended up saving Hang for last. And then, yeah, I guess I haven't addressed like one of the more fun elements of this session as well. You may be wondering what's going on with the very hot and inferno boulders that we're trying, and we'll get on some spicy ones too. So that's like the grading system here at Hang. So yeah, I guess the Bobats were having some fun with themselves when they were coming up with the grading system for this gym, and let's see if I can remember it. So I think it starts off, the easiest is lemon and herb is the easiest grade, and then I think we go mild is the next grade, and then spicy, then medium, then spicy, then very hot, then inferno is the hardest. Something like this, but I'm sure I may have made a mistake there. But anyway, all of these boulders have a little tag with 1 to 4 chili peppers, and then inferno is just like a chili pepper on fire, and that indicates the grade of the boulders, which was very creative. Definitely the most creative grading system I've ever experienced in a climbing gym. And I've been to a lot of climbing gyms, so yeah, it was quite fun. And this was also a good session because we got like a nice amount of variety in, lots of different styles, and it's also nice when the boulders aren't too hard. It means that I don't even have the chance to allow myself to get caught up in projecting something for too long and accidentally miss the nice variety and making sure that I'm hopping on different styles of boulders. So yeah, everything was taken a few tries, couple falls, perfect session that I want to be having right before the World Cup. And we get on a nice amount of slab in particular, which was cool. Nothing too hard, but getting lots of different styles of moves under our belt is really, really important. So as we are finishing this session, trying some moderate slabs and whatnot, I want to leave off this episode kind of talking about exactly where my headspace is going into this World Cup, since this has been such a major, prominent theme of the training recently. So of course we were talking about how I'm feeling about my climbing ability relative to the World Cup earlier on throughout this episode, but how I feel in a bit more of a bigger picture sense is that sort of what I've been talking about, where I'm not feeling the best about my abilities right now, or at least feeling insecure, maybe even a bit of irrational insecurity, I don't know yet. This is sort of how I'm thinking about it in like a practical way in regards to the World Cup, and trying to get a gauge of how I will maybe perform or not. But what I mean about, I want to talk about how I feel bigger picture, is that World Cup's definitely not the most important thing in my climbing life these days. That is still a fundamental way that I'm feeling about this event, about both of these events, and it's helping me feel good at the end of the day. Even if these World Cups go quite badly, it really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. My climbing life is about so much more than trying to pursue certain results at certain events. There's so many ways to make climbing fulfilling, so many different avenues, and that is the biggest thing I've learned over recent years. I do love competing, and I love doing all sorts of comps, and World Cups are just a type of comp. And competing is maybe only a third of what makes climbing fulfilling for me as well. The YouTube is a big part of it. Just literally the aspect of working out and almost playing this real life video game is just another element. We could ditch the YouTube and ditch the competing altogether, and there's still fulfillment in climbing. So the point is that I don't need a good performance at these World Cups, whatsoever at the end of the day. And I think this is the core way that I feel about these events. I think I'm going into these World Cups with a much more healthy mindset than I have in previous years, because that's not the way I felt when I was younger doing the World Cups. I had big dreams, big aspirations, and it felt really bad and really toxic when I was nowhere near them. So the point is that these World Cups are almost more of a nice fun experiment. Let's just see how I would perform at these World Cups. If I do well, then that's cool. If I don't really care. And it's because there's just so many ways that I can find fulfillment from climbing. And I've been chatting with Maddie even in recent days about some ideas and some new ideas going into next season in regards to what I want to do with my climbing, with my competing. And right now we're sort of in the World Cup arc, and the curiosity of seeing how I would perform at these events is just so powerful that at the end of the day, I must go do them and just see, because I'm very curious. But yeah, while I'm nitpicking sort of my form and my shape, at the end of the day, it's not toxic like it used to be, because I know what these World Cups are to me, and it's just, like I said, sort of an experiment, sort of something I want to do because I'm curious. And yeah, I think it's all good fun at the end of the day, and I'm nervous and I'm excited. And yeah, like I said at the time I'm recording this, the World Cup is tomorrow, and I wanted to make sure that I forced myself to get this recording done before the World Cup started, as almost like a nice little diary or a little journal entry. I wanted to make sure I got my thoughts off before I actually competed in the qualifying round, because I've been procrastinating recording this episode, and I definitely didn't want to make it too late, because I want to sort of mark down how I was thinking and feeling going into these World Cups, because that can be good to refer back to as well. But anyway, yeah, at the end of the day, I am excited. It's going to be fun. There's all sorts of emotions that you go through before a big event that you've been training for, and your mind likes to play games with itself. But then as soon as you step out on the mats, man, you go into fight mode, and it is just exciting. And I'm going to do my absolute best. Like, for whatever the reasons are that we're here, that we're doing this, I'm going to definitely do it to the best of my ability, and I want to do it right. And I'm not going to go out there and not try my best. I will do everything I can, try my absolute hardest, and see what comes of it. And I'm definitely very excited. We just got to the official hotel, and even just seeing the other World Cup athletes sort of gets you just in that zone and really, really excited to fight the next day. So I'll tune back in probably the next video that's coming out, and we'll talk about the World Cups. And before we finish this session off with this last boulder here, I also wanted to shout out Joseph, who I was climbing with today in this session. I met him here in London. He is one of the first subscribers to this channel, and he's a new buddy of mine, and it was really cool to meet someone after like a year and a half of seeing them online, and then I met him in person today, so that was really fun to climb with him today. So shout out to Joseph. And then yeah, let's jump into the tip of the day. This one is going to be super quick, but was another important thing that I was thinking about during the session. So for today's tip of the day, we're going to be talking about the idea of taking a move that feels impossible for you and finding value in simply just trying to get as close as you possibly can to sticking the move. And maybe you never actually stick it, but at the end of the day, that is still quite valuable. And closing the gap between a move feeling impossible and making it as possible as you can. There's a whole lot of value in trying this. And this idea was sparked by the last move of the blue boulder that we were trying. The move, I knew that it was definitely possible. Like I was saying in the video, they don't usually say impossible moves for a competition. But for me personally, I just felt nowhere near it. And I even realized this on attempt 2 or something. Yeah, we tried that boulder a whole lot more. And it's because this idea really kicked in, and this is something I'm always very conscious of in training. When I run into a move that just feels beyond me, there is always going to be value in putting at least like maybe in 5, 6, or 7 tries on a move that you just sort of know that you can't do, and close the gap between the impossible and possible. And on this last move of this boulder, the idea is pretty simple. Like, how long can I keep my right hand on this hold and my right foot on the volume and just sort of like go, power scream and like before I just know that I'm gonna fall. But trying to just literally increase the time that my hand and foot stays on the wall is very valuable. I'm just training that end position. I'm training the strength required in staying there. And you will surprise yourself sometimes as well and actually stick moves like this. But this is definitely something I'm very conscious of all the time when I'm training, and I would encourage you to think the same. If a move feels just impossible for you, don't give up on it and walk away too early. Put at least a handful more goes on it and just try your absolute hardest. And that is a super valuable way to train. So anyway, that is the end of the episode. Thank you for watching, and I will see you tomorrow. I'll see you in the future video after I go compete in my first World Cup in a while tomorrow. And yeah, you can look forward to some cool, never before seen COMPCLIMB footage of World Cup boulders. And yeah, I'm very excited. So I'll see you then. Mr. Catchy Potato here.